This afternoon, Victoria County deputies arrested a 15-year-old student at Victoria East High School. He is accused of threatening to use a weapon.
That's just one of two school incidents worked by deputies today. 25 News Now weekend anchor Amaya Norman joins us with the details. Amaya.
Yes, Dawn and Shauna, authorities says the student made the statement to a school security officer just before 2 p.m. School resources deputies quickly found and detained the student. This comes the days after the Victoria ISD held a press conference about recent threats and issues in the district. Today, the sheriff's office is reporting 2 or more incidents in the school district. Victoria County Sheriff Justin Marr says a student at East today was charged with making a false alarm or report. That is a felony. The student was transported to the juvenile detention facility. Authorities determined the student did not have a weapon. In a separate incident, deputies responded to a threatening target people at a school this afternoon. As a precaution, both STEM Middle School and nearby Smith Elementary were placed on temporary hold. The hold was lifted and school resumed as normal. The arrest today makes a total of 13 arrests so far this school year in just 6 weeks. The investigation into the STEM Middle School showed there was no credible threats. Shauna and Dawn, back to you.
All right, thank you, Amaya. Well, a Cuero teen missing for nearly 2 days has been found. Police say 15-year-old Nicholas Haupt was last seen at his residence in Cuero around 10:30 Monday night, and they believed that he may have run away to the San Antonio area. Family said that there was a sighting of him in Sutherland Springs the next day. Police tonight have reported that he was found in the San Antonio area and is safe. No additional details are available at this time.
The Texas Commission on Environmental Quality is considering a water use permit to divert more than 96,000 acre-feet of water per year from the Lavaca River. A public hearing was held last night in Edna on the application filed by the Lavaca Navidad River Authority, or LNRA. If approved, the permit will allow LNRA to build and maintain a dam and reservoir that will supply water for municipal, industrial, and mining purposes in Calhoun, Jackson, Matagorda, Wharton, and Victoria counties.
Some of the potential consequences of this action would be less fresh water reaching the bay, which is our primary concern, and that has negative consequences for fisheries, for habitats, specifically oysters, oyster reef distribution and abundance.
Another person affected by the proposal is Tad Mayfield, owner of Lavaca River Ranch. He says an environmental study was not done, and damming the river could change the whole ecosystem of the water, potentially damaging it.
ExxonMobil's Houston area plastic recycling plant is at the center of a new lawsuit. The California Attorney General says Exxon's Baytown complex was at the heart of what he argued was false promises to consumers. Exxon had started a program that promised to revolutionize plastic recycling. The lawsuit says only 8% of the plastics recycled at the Baytown facility actually become new plastics, that is. The rest is burned as fuel.
Matagorda County Commissioners approved the 2025 fiscal year budget and tax rate this week. The new budget totals more than $32 million. The tax rate will be about 2 cents lower than the current rate. While the rate is lower, it will raise more than $2.2 million in additional revenue for Matagorda County, which is a 9.23% increase from last year's budget.
The Victoria ISD is considering a collaboration with a community organization to open a student health clinic. Interim Superintendent Randy Meyer says the district was contacted by community health centers of South Central Texas to provide a space where children who don't have health insurance coverage can get medical treatment. The program would be funded through grants. If final approval is given, which would be in the spring, the clinic will give Victoria children access to health screenings, physicals, and regular checkups, all free of charge.
If a family needs to get to the doctor to get care for their child, they'll go in just like they would any other clinic or medical center, and they'll get the care they need. They'll make appointments, they'll go in. They can also get their vaccinations.
Now, Meyer says attendance matters, and he says too many students are missing multiple days of school, often due to a lack of health care. He feels if this is approved, the health center would be a great benefit to the community.
Let's take a first look at your forecast with First Warn Storm Team Chief Meteorologist Mac Pettis, who tonight is watching our Crossroads forecast and a big problem that is going the way of Florida, and it's right now in the Gulf. Mac.
Absolutely, Don. Obviously, we had the stormy weather this afternoon for about an hour. It all went south as the frontal system came through. Some of the storms got a little heavy. We got 3/4 of an inch of rain out at the airport, but all that is gone. Now we're getting the north wind and drier air is rolling in to make it very lovely for us for the next few days. We'll have more on that, but we'll also be talking about Helene, which is going to be slamming into Florida tomorrow night at this time. All that coming up in just a moment. Back to you.
Mac, thank you. A Kentucky sheriff charged with fatally shooting a district court judge in his chambers pleaded not guilty Wednesday. Sean Steins is charged with murdering Letcher County District Judge Kevin Mullins last week. Authorities say the motive in the attack remains unclear. Steins is in jail without bond. A preliminary hearing is set for October 1st. Advocates for the Stop Campus Hazing Act cleared a major hurdle today.
Yeah, the House of Representatives unanimously passed the bill that would create a first ever federal anti-hazing law. ABC's Christiane Cordero has more.
Today, a purpose built from pain is one step closer to becoming law.
We do this in honor of our sons.
The Piazza and Groover families each lost their sons in separate hazing incidents while pledging to fraternities in 2017. Timothy Piazza was a student at Penn State. Max Groover, a student at LSU. In the 7 years since, their parents have fought to stop hazing on college campuses. And Tuesday night,
those in favor say aye.
The House of Representatives passed the Stop Campus Hazing Act unanimously.
No parent should have to endure what Gary and Cindy Hips have had to go through, the senseless loss of a beloved son.
The only thing that we can do now is harness that pain and try to do something positive with it.
The law would require colleges and universities that receive federal student aid to report hazing incidents, publish online the names of organizations that violate that policy, and create and provide anti-hazing programs to all students.
When my son said he wanted to join Beta Theta Pi, I looked it up and it said it was a non-drinking, non-hazing fraternity, and I thought he was making a good choice. Really? But come to find out after the fact that chapter had been suspended a few years prior for hazing.
The Piazzas and Groovers are adamant this bill will save lives, that it would have saved their sons' lives.
Hopefully that will prevent the bad actors from getting their name out there. Maybe they'll say, we might need to stop this now before they put our name on that list.
The bill now heads to the Senate, where it needs a simple majority to pass. No date yet on when they'll take it up. Christiane Cordero, ABC News, Washington.
Meta, the parent company of Facebook and Instagram, is bringing more celebrity voices and upgrades to its AI chatbot. Meta collaborated with actors like Judi Dench, John Cena, Keegan-Michael Key, and Kristen Bell, as well as Awkwafina. The actors will train the chatbot to replicate their voices. Another new feature is users can now have real-time conversations with the chatbot and choose from a selection of celebrity voices. Among the other notable announcements today, Meta will now let social media influencers make AI versions of themselves. Company CEO Mark Zuckerberg said Meta AI is on track to being the most used AI assistant in the world by the end of this year.
A newly created state appeals court denied Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton's request to temporarily block the State Fair of Texas policy banning all firearms from its fairgrounds. The event is set to start Friday. Wednesday, Paxton filed a petition in the Texas Supreme Court to challenge the Texas State Fair firearms ban. To read this full Texas Tribune article, visit our website, crossroadstoday.com.
And here are some of the top headlines that you can read in the Port Lavaca Wave this week. A new campaign starts for a rural mental health resources hotline. Plus, the Calhoun County Fair pageant is looking for contestants for next month's event. You can read those stories and a lot more by going online to portlavacawave.com.
Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Crossroads Today. Hit the like button and click the notification bell. Then you can see Crossroads Today on YouTube. And stay with us. Coming up on 25 News Now at 10. The House secures a funding deal with Democratic support, avoiding a government shutdown.
Also coming up, former President Trump pushes an economic agenda as the race for the White House focuses on issues key to voters.
The House passed a bill Wednesday will keep the government funded through late December. Speaker Mike Johnson did not have the necessary Republican votes to move the bill over the finish line, but he got support from Democrats, which was more than enough to get 341 votes to approve. 82 Republicans voted against the bill. It includes $231 million in additional funding for the Secret Service. The bill does not include the SAVE Act, a controversial measure targeted at stopping non-citizens from voting. The Senate also passed the bill. The bill would fund the government through December 20th. Here's today's viewer poll. Which areas of government spending do you think should be prioritized to avoid a shutdown? Healthcare and social services, education, defense and national security, and infrastructure and public. You are speaking, and 58% of you say they're going for defense and national security. In its second place, healthcare and social services with 29% of the vote. And we thank you for voting.
Texas sues the Biden administration over a requirement to provide foster placements for LGBTQ plus youth. The lawsuit from Attorney General Ken Paxton says placing LGBTQ plus foster children in more accepting homes would cost Texas too much money and resources. The Texas Tribune reports that if the state fails to put in those requirements, Texas could lose as much as $432 million in annual federal funding for its foster care program. Now to the campaign trail, where Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump give dueling speeches in critical battleground states.
And both candidates focus their speeches on the economy.
The top issue among voters, and one polls show former President Trump has the edge in. Trump today pitching his economic agenda during a speech in North Carolina.
The centerpiece of my plan for a manufacturing renaissance will be a 15% made in America tax rate. If you don't make your product here, then you will have to pay a tariff.
Some economists say Trump's tariffs plan would drive costs for consumers up, fueling the vice president's attacks that it only benefits corporations.
Just remember, Kamala's not attacking me. She's attacking your furniture job. She's attacking your communities. She's attacking your factories. And she's trying to send all of those jobs to China with everything else.
Vouching for Harris today, President Biden in an exclusive interview with The View.
She has the energy, she has the intelligence, she has the grit, she has the stamina, and she has the guts to do the right thing.
The VP, while campaigning in must-win Pennsylvania, zeroed in on her promise to build the middle class, touting her middle-class roots and experience in public service.
In this election, I believe we have an extraordinary opportunity to make our middle class the engine of America's prosperity.
Harris now heads to Arizona, where she'll visit the southern border for the first time since becoming the Democratic presidential nominee. Christiane Cordero, ABC News, Washington.
A new study suggests LGBTQ adults may have a greater risk of poor brain health. The researchers studied data from more than 393,000 adults whose average age was 51. They found LGBTQ individuals were 15% more likely to develop negative brain health outcomes when compared to their cisgender and heterosexual peers. Those outcomes include dementia, late life depression, and stroke. It's important to note experts say being a member of the LGBTQ community itself doesn't cause worse brain health, but the increased risks likely stem from a combination of psychosocial and biological factors, including discrimination and chronic stress. The study was published Wednesday in the journal Neurology.
Loss of life is a part of life, but a new study shows that losing someone close to you can make you age faster.
ABC News' Zoreen Shaw explains.
A study from Columbia University found that people who had lost a parent, spouse, sibling, or child had more evidence of biological aging, the decline of cell, tissue, and organ function. Researchers say this poor organ function could lead to chronic medical conditions. Even worse, the more losses you experienced, the more your cells seem to age. Interestingly, the researchers seem to find that losses suffered in adulthood had more of an impact than losses suffered as a child. Blacks and Hispanics experienced more loss compared to white participants, but there was no change in rates of cell aging based on race. It is normal to grieve, but if you feel you're experiencing serious difficulty in the face of a loss, please remember that help is available by dialing 988. With this Medical Minute, I'm Zoreen Shah, ABC News.
Here are some of the top headlines that you can read in this week's Quero Record. The community walks for suicide prevention, and Grace Episcopal Church and School celebrates 150 years. You can read these stories and more online at DeWittCountyToday.com.
Well, good evening, everybody. It's 74 degrees. It's actually cooler right now than it was last night at this time. That's because the north wind is blown in. Of course, we had those thunderstorms that came through with the frontal system. Before that, we got up to 99 just before the front came through. Looking at 6,700 officially of rain out at the airport. Not bad. We'll be talking about what happens for the rest of the week for your weather, and we'll take a second look at Helene, the hurricane. All that in a moment. Well, good evening, everybody. Well, obviously, we had some storms that came through the area this afternoon. About 4 o'clock, they rolled right through Victoria and all the way down to the coast. At this hour, we're picking up a little bit of a rain band just to the north of the city, right about there. But generally speaking, the bulk of the activity has already moved south. In fact, it went all the way down to Corpus Christi, where they're getting some stormy weather even as we speak, even down into deep South Texas. This is the frontal system that I promised you. It finally got here. Here's our front. It's south of the city, and now we're getting the northerly winds all over our area and the rest of Texas. In fact, in the Fredericksburg area, they're getting a north wind at about 20 miles an hour, and so that's the cool, dry air that's dropping into the region. Tonight in Fredericksburg, it's going to be down to 58 degrees. It won't be that cool here, but it'll be much nicer now that we're going to have some very low humidities for the next few days. High pressure is a big, strong ridge, and that is pulling down the north wind, and that is going to give us a drier air. It's also the reason why the storm or the hurricane is definitely going to follow that track. I mean, it has nowhere else to go. It cannot run through the ridge. It's going to be running up on the edge of it, so the path of it is very much baked into the whole deal. 89 tomorrow's high temperature, lots of sunshine. You're not going to complain. You're going to enjoy the next few days. Temperatures a little bit more reasonable, still on the warm side, but considering what's going on the East Coast, boy, I'll tell you, we're very fortunate. Now, Helene is here, the hurricane. It's a strong system, but will continue to strengthen up to a 2 and possibly a 4. This is the last bulletin that came out, and it puts it landing onshore as a 4. Folks, that's 130 miles an hour, okay? So all of the Great Bend of Florida is under the gun. Apalachicola down to Tampa, where the hurricane warnings are up. Of course, advisories are up for the entire state of Florida. And not only that, but this is the weird part. Then it goes up into Atlanta. Atlanta is going to get about 80-mile-an-hour winds. Heavy rain, lots of wind, lots of trees down, lots of power lines down. And so the East Coast all the way to the Tennessee Valley is going to be under the gun. Tonight, something new has been added. We have another storm. It's called Isaac, but Isaac is going out to sea. We don't have to worry about Isaac. This is the biggest thing that they have to worry about on the East Coast is the storm surge. As you can see right about here, all this area in purple, that's where the surge is expected to be 12 to 18 feet above sea level. So in other words, the ocean is going to come up on shore. Now, we, of course, had Harvey not too long ago. The storm surge in Rockport was 6 feet. That's because we have the barrier islands, the Padre Island, to slow it down. They don't have a barrier island to slow it down, so it's going to be definitely a big problem with the surge. And you know, Tallahassee is like right about here. The capital city is going to get pretty much the eye of the storm. So it's going to be a big day tomorrow in Florida. For us, just lovely weather. Sunny skies, northerly winds up to 89. In Cueros, sunny skies, northerly winds 90. And your 7-day forecast, well, I tell you, you couldn't buy that. That is going to be gorgeous for us all the way through the weekend. That's your 7-day forecast, reminding everybody we do have a QR code. We'd love for you to scan that. Put Crossroads Today on your phone. It's time for Max Williams with sports.
Thanks, Mac. And staying in the topic of weather here, a lot of teams here in South Texas are trying to beat the heat this football season. I'll discuss more in sports. Now, everyone, we made it to the halfway point of the season. Temperatures are starting to cool down here in the Crossroads area, but as we know in Texas, whether it's football, soccer, or teams, a lot of teams just want to practice safe, especially with the heat. So here's 25 News Now sports reporter Ray Robinson with more.
With high school football in full swing still means dangerous temperatures in the Crossroads. Luckily, local school districts in our area is taking necessary protocols to keep your athletes cool. These past few months have been the hottest in recorded history for the Crossroads, so meaning the task for safe practices for football have become more difficult. Victoria schools have recently held their practices early in the morning as part of their wet bulb global temperature protocol to help combat this issue. Victoria ISD Athletic Director Spencer Gant was able to provide us with extra information regarding the protocol.
Whereas the wet bulb measures about 5 or 6, and it actually determines what the weather feels like on your skin. When you practice before school or early in the morning, you completely take the wet bulb out of it. I mean, it's not hot. You're not worried about kids having heat-related illnesses, that kind of stuff.
Athletic director down in Vanderbilt, Texas for Industrial, Coach Narin was one of the few schools that still practice after school, which was when the temperature was at its highest. His approach remained the same in keeping their athletes cool.
To deal with the heat, obviously it's frequent water breaks. Make sure the kids are hydrated, checking them before they go out. It's, some days when it was extremely hot, we went just t-shirts and shorts and no shoulder pads, so we've been doing.
I caught up with 25 News Now meteorologist Scott Pitney to get further knowledge on the wet bulb global temperature. Now, Scott, with the wet bulb global temperature being such a deciding factor in football practices being able to practice, can you give us a little bit more detail about what the wet bulb global temperature is exactly?
Yeah, right. So in the summertime especially, you hear us talk about heat index and feels like temperature a lot, which accounts for temperature and humidity. Wet bulb globe temperature, also known as WBGT, also accounts for sunlight as well as wind, and how all these elements have an effect on the human body, especially during strenuous exercise during the summer months. Now, the U.S. Army published this chart. This is a very handy chart. Let me just give an example. We'll just take the worst case scenario. If you have a wet bulb globe temperature of 90 degrees or more, wow, that's a lot of heat. And you just follow this over to, let's just pick the hard work area, since we're talking about football and things like that. According to this chart, the recommendation is to practice 10 minutes and rest 50 minutes. And this also includes the fluid, to have about 1.5 quarts of fluid with that wet bulb globe temperature of 90 degrees.
Ray Robinson, KAVU TV 25 News Now, Sports.
All right, thanks, Ray. Now, Victoria West Warriors, they do practice in the morning, so they try to find ways to beat the heat like we just talked about, and it's working for them. They're 4-0 right now under head coach Courtney Boyce. One of the star players on the team and was big last week is wide receiver Tristan Bernard. He had a kickoff return last week and 3 other touchdowns. I sat with him to get his thoughts about last week's game and look what he's looking forward to in district play.
Felt great putting trust in my guys and just having the confidence to go out there and do what I did. It was weird. I mean, not weird, but not used to playing guys in San Antonio. This is new to us. So just going out there and doing what we could do, see how we do.
Going to start district play strong and stay undefeated versus San Antonio McCullum this Friday night. That's going to do it here in sports. Don and Shauna, back to you.
Max, thank you, and stay with us. Coming up on 25 News Now at 10, we'll take a last look at your weather. Plus, Hong Kong welcomes new giant pandas from China with a special ceremony. Yes, it's Pandemonium. A 12-year-old girl in Utah is celebrating her new playground. Rosalie Olson took her crayon drawing to City Hall in Clearfield, and it worked. After raising concerns about a playground design unsuitable for younger children, she collaborated with officials to create a more inclusive space. Rosalie says it feels amazing to see her dream come to life, proving that sometimes when you fight City Hall, you win.
You don't need anything fancy, just a box of crayons.
There you go.
Right. Well, Hong Kong is welcoming 2 new giant pandas. The 5-year-old pair are a gift from neighboring China and will be greeted with an arrival ceremony at Hong Kong International Airport tomorrow. An is a male panda and Kiki is female. They come from a conservation and research center in Chengdu. The local government has been making upgrades to their panda enclosure so that they'll be all ready in anticipation of their arrival. I love pandas. They're so fun to watch. They're goofy and they fall over themselves. And
one of my favorite animals too.
Yes,
Oh,
they're
yeah.
so cute.
They're having fun with the pandas. But right now in Florida, there's not much fun going on.
Everybody in Florida's coastal bend, they need to start getting out because the storm is 24 hours away. And by this time tomorrow, Florida is really going to be under the gun. We're probably going to be having live pictures coming in, so we'll get ready for that. We are the beneficiaries of all that mess back east. We're going to get that north wind, low humidity, very pleasant evenings. In fact, as I mentioned, in the hill country, it'll be down into the 50s tonight. It'll be in the 60s for us, and we're looking for sunshine all the way through the weekend. And of course, tomorrow, tune in. We'll have all the latest from Florida.
Thank you, Mac. And finally tonight, we get to plan your breakfast tomorrow. Heat up the griddle. Tomorrow is National Pancake Day, also known as flapjacks, Johnny cakes, griddle cakes, or hot cakes. Pancakes are a traditional breakfast favorite dating back more than, 30,000 years? What?
Wow.
Pancakes may be the oldest
cavemen were eating
breakfast- I think maybe so. Maybe they have the syrup. They're made with mixed batter, I think, as most people know. And the topping options are endless. Butter, syrup, fruit, whipped cream.
Blueberries.
Honey, nuts. Celebrate pancakes tomorrow. Whip some up and enjoy a tall stack of pancakes. What's your favorite pancake?
A short stack.
Short stack, Max?
That's same as Mac right there.
Do you have a favorite on that?
I like the buttermilk with butter pecan syrup. Delicious. But
Who makes that harvest grain? The one with a nutty kind of thing.
I like blueberry pancakes. Blueberry pancakes.
That's a good one too.
Oh, yeah.
one of my favorites is breakfast for dinner. So you can
Oh,
eat,
yeah.
even if you don't get up in the
absolutely.
morning and make them, you can have them tomorrow night.
Thanks for joining us. 25 News Now Sunrise starting at 5. Good night.